Today I'm going to answer 20 questions, well, 21. There's a bonus at the end, with information you can use to make it your own reality. So it's Monday morning. You wake up, no alarm clock. Or better yet, Sunday night. You don't have that Sunday night dread of work in the morning. Felt that many times myself. And early retirement just isn't for the rich, ultra wealthy, or the lottery winners. It's achievable by pretty much anybody at any level of income. My wife came across a term the other day, senior squatters. Those are people that reach retirement age with no retirement and decide to squat with their kids. So that's a thing, I guess. And the answers to some of these questions just might surprise you. FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. It's a lifestyle and financial investing strategy that's pretty aggressive. It involves maximizing your savings rate, sometimes at 50% or more. Personally, I think we were up to 70% at one point. It didn't last very long, but it was probably 6 months to a year. We were saving 70% of our income. And then investing aggressively, it's just taking control of your financial future so you're not stuck in a 9-to-5 job until you're 65 years old. You still have the main question, how much money do I need to retire? And this is where things get interesting. So it's all about what you want your retirement to look like. It depends on your desired lifestyle, the annual expenses that you'll have at that time. Some people they just want to have a minimalist lifestyle. Some people want to live in luxury, travel the world. So it's all depending on what you want your retirement to look like, is how much money you're going to need. So your FIRE number or the amount of money you're going to need to retire, it's unique to you. So you take those annual expenses that we figured out in the last question, and we're going to multiply those by 25, and that gives us our FIRE number. And this is based on the 4% rule, where you're going to withdraw 4%, but that's coming in the next question. So for example, let's take your annual expenses are going to be $40,000, and we're going to multiply that by 25, so we get $1 million, and that's our FIRE number. But is relying on this simple math, is that really enough? Let's dive into the numbers. The 4% rule is a guideline, and this guideline suggests if you withdraw 4% of your investments and you're able to live on that, it should last you at least 30 years. But it's important to know that this 4% rule isn't like set in stone. It's not a guarantee, so you always have to be flexible. There's market fluctuations, unexpected expenses, and a longer lifespan. And FIRE isn't just a one-size-fits-all. There's different types of FIRE. There's LeanFIRE, which is retiring with a smaller nest egg and living a frugal or minimalist lifestyle. Then there's FatFIRE, so you're getting a huge nest egg, so you can pretty much live how you want in retirement. And then there's what they call BaristaFIRE, which is achieving partial financial freedom and then working part-time. So there's a lot of flexibility. So after hearing those three, let me know in the comments, which one are you more interested in? Is that even achievable today? Let's find out next. Housing is pretty outrageous right now. The market, I mean, it's been, especially this last week, it's been going up and down. I mean, we had just a few weeks ago, interest rates dropped and it shot up. And then we had recently where the dock workers were threatening to strike, saw a big dump. The next day, they said they weren't going to strike and the market shot right back up. So there's a lot of fluctuations, but even with all that, people are achieving FIRE all the time. And right before we pulled the trigger and both of us retired, we always told ourselves, we're young, or young enough. Well, I'm old, but my wife is young, and we're still very employable. So if things fell through, the market took a total dump, we just go back to work. But we'd rather jump now and be glad that we did than not and wish we had. So really it's all about strategic planning, sticking with that plan, disciplined savings, and smart investing. And the key really is to stay flexible. And that's another good question. It's all about reducing expenses. Cut back on things like dining out, subscriptions you don't use, and impulse purchases. You can also increase your income. Side hustles, start a YouTube channel. I haven't made a dime yet, but I'm hoping to. Or freelance work, or asking for a raise. And then one thing that really helped us mentally is setting up automatic savings. Every time we got paid, a chunk of money went straight to our savings account or our investment accounts, and we never saw it. So it was just mentally like it wasn't even there, and we didn't miss it. But just remember, every dollar you save is a dollar that's invested and get you that much closer to your retirement. That's what powers the whole FIRE movement, is investing. So some common strategies are index funds. I will up and down preach index funds, index funds, index funds. Your fees are next to nothing. And personally, I mean, I'm not an investment guru or a financial expert or anything like that, but I won't do anything but index funds. And investing in real estate, that's another asset that continues to go up. I mean, real estate was part of our plan all along. We owned up at 1.3 houses, and now we're down to 1 rental. Well, this house is going up for sale like in a week. That's another story. And then maximizing your retirement accounts. I mean, 401ks, especially if your company's matching, you need to hit at least that match, but you need to try to maximize those accounts. And just diversify. Take advantage of IRAs and Roth IRAs just to have your money spread out so all your eggs aren't in one basket. Yeah, taxes, that's a beast. That can affect your retirement savings and your withdrawals when you go to withdrawal. But the best advice I can give is just utilize all of the tax advantage investment plans you can. So maximize your contributions to your 401k and IRA plans. And then there's always the capital gains. You really need to understand how that's going to affect your overall plan. And then plan your withdrawals strategically. Just keep in mind how and when you're going to withdraw those funds to minimize taxes. And if you have more questions about that, I would advise you to talk to a tax consultant just to give you, a plan on your taxes. I mean, your investments are pretty much key to your plan, but there's one big thing that can derail everything: healthcare. Healthcare is a serious concern, especially if you're retiring before 65 and before Medicare kicks in. Options include purchasing private insurance. I mean, it could be costly, but help you sleep at night. The health insurance marketplaces, you may qualify for subsidies, but it's all dependent on your income. I mean, based on our income, personally, we're going to be able to utilize Obamacare. The income that we're pulling out of our investments is going to be low enough, especially this next year, that will qualify for the Obamacare subsidies. There's also health sharing ministries that can reduce the cost of healthcare. The bottom line is just make sure that you consider your healthcare when you're figuring out your yearly expenses. And we're halfway through, so subscribe if you want to see more in-depth videos. Cutting costs are essential. And reducing expenses doesn't mean you have to deprive yourself of having a life. It just means you need to find ways that you can live cheaper. One of the biggest ones, downsize your house and consider moving into a smaller house or living in a less expensive area. Next is cutting discretionary spending. Quit going out to dinner every night. Cut in entertainment costs and just cut out impulse buys altogether. Try living more frugal. Every expense you reduce just accelerates your plan that much more. Side hustles and passive income are probably the biggest things you can do to accelerate your growth. I mean, there's freelancing, consulting. Use your skills to create extra income. Starting an online business, blogging, I mentioned before, YouTube, or just some kind of e-commerce. This is one of the things that we did. My wife actually started a blog to document our journey to financial freedom. We bought a laundromat, and people were so interested in that in her blog that we created a course, a book, basically a whole package. And that alone was bringing in, I think at one point it was almost $2,000 a month. Now it's probably $1,100 because we haven't touched it in years, but it's still bringing in an income. And then there's real estate rentals, renting out property or even a room in your house. But all these plans have pitfalls, so that's what we'll discuss next. Risks, there's market volatility, which we've seen a lot of lately. I mean, economic downturn, that will definitely have an impact on your investments. Outliving your savings. I mean, a longer life expectancy means more savings that you'll need. And then there's inflation. Rising costs can erode your purchasing power. But speaking of these risks, we always said that we're not going to make decisions based on what if. So what are some ways that you can mitigate these risks? Diversification is a huge one. We have some of our money in real estate, the stock market, obviously. We have a huge cash reserve, which is another big thing, is having just cash. And then flexibility. Flexibility is huge. Just being flexible on how much you can withdraw depending on market fluctuations. Retiring early isn't just about quitting your job. It's about finding fulfillment beyond the 9 to 5. Pursue hobbies and passions. Is there anything that you've always wanted to do? I mean, I did art. Art was huge for me. There's volunteering, giving back to your community. Go back to school, learn something new. Travel, explore new cultures, different cultures, areas of the world that you have never seen before. And having a plan for your time is just as important as your financial plan. And then there are some people that criticize the whole FIRE movement. Are their concerns valid? Let's look into these criticisms next. I mean, critics often point out the frugality. Living too frugally will impact your quality of life. They're assuming that the market's just going to crash. Stocks don't always go up, even though they have. You know, leaving your job, you're going to lose your social life. You're going to be isolated somehow. And then, of course, healthcare. Healthcare is a huge criticism. That's probably a more valid one, but like I talked about earlier, it's something we can plan for. So how do we address these concerns? There's balance. Don't go so frugal that you're destroying your quality of life. Conservative planning. Use cautious estimates for returns. And stay engaged. Build a life outside of work now. Inflation is a thing, but real estate and the stock market have always outpaced inflation. But at the same time, you should be adjusting your plan. I mean, we looked at it like every 6 months and would adjust where we were needed. And many of us have debts. Can you still pursue FIRE if you're not debt-free? You might be surprised. It is a little more challenging to pursue FIRE while you have debts, but it's possible. Try to get rid of that consumer debt as soon as possible. We followed Dave Ramsey's snowball method, where we took the smallest balance and paid that off first, and then used that money that we're paying on that small balance to move on to the next one, used all that money to move on to the next one. And we were debt-free in 3 years, but there's one area that I don't agree with Dave on, and that's mortgage debt. He thinks you should pay off your mortgage. If you have a 6% mortgage, but the market's bringing in 8, wouldn't it make more sense to put that money in the market than to pay off that 6% loan? I don't know. The math works for me. So we decided we're not going to pay off our mortgage. We'd rather invest that money. But even when we were paying off debt, we were constantly contributing to our 401ks, and we were putting less into our IRAs when we were paying off debt, but we were still putting a little bit in. So just find the balance that works for you between debt payoff and investing. Budgeting, it's critical. You have to budget. No questions. You have to track your spending. How are you going to know what you can cut back, what you need to cut back if you're not tracking where every dollar goes? And then having that budget, that's going to keep you in line to hitting those goals that you have. We set yearly goals. We wanted to be at certain points every year. And I'd say 80% of the time we met those goals. There were a few times where things happened or we spent money we shouldn't have, but I would say 80% of the time we met those goals. And having that budget, that was the key. So either find a budgeting app online, youneedabudget.com. So navigating all this, it can be stressful. Should you seek professional help? A financial advisor, they can give you personalized advice that's, for your situation you're in. They are experts with money, so they can give you advice on investment strategies, tax planning, and risk management. And they do give you accountability. They'll help you stay on track with the plan. But personally, I wouldn't advise it because it costs money, and it takes money out of your investments. And with enough research and planning, most people can do it on their own. It's perfectly fine to change your mind. Life is unpredictable. Your plans could change. Or you could just re-enter the workforce. Maybe you'll choose to go back to work, but in a totally different field. You might decide to work part-time. But just remember, the skills and financial habits that you develop on your way to FIRE, they're going to be valuable no matter what you decide. And as promised, the bonus, it's overlooked a lot, but it's called geo-arbitrage. It's moving to areas with a lower cost of living, where people have been able to retire on $500,000, $300,000 in investments, and being able to draw off of that, working remotely from different areas around the world. The Philippines, Belize is a popular one. Belize is actually really cool. But you could do a search on YouTube for couples that have retired to low-cost areas in different countries. You do have to live in another country, though. Doesn't really work for us. I mean, we're going to travel for a year, but we don't want to permanently be in another country. And this is a lot packed into one video, and I'm just touching on everything, but I am planning more videos to hit on some of these subjects more in depth. So if there's anything you want to hear more about, let me know in the comments, and I'll make that one of my first videos. So just remember, this whole journey to financial freedom, FIRE movement, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You're not gonna find, I mean, you probably will find YouTubers or articles saying, oh yeah, we did it in 6 months, we did it in a year. Yeah, you probably had a buttload of money when you did that too, though. After we became debt-free, it took us 10 years to achieve our goals and retire. So if you want to see a breakdown of how we reached retirement early, you can watch this video here. Thanks for watching.